Welcome to Women Lead, a production of the Women of Color Empowerment Institute, Inc. We are your hosts. I'm Kathy Eggleston.
I'm Michelle Austin Pamies.
And I'm Bernadette Norris Weeks. Today, our show is about the power of poetry. Thanks to Amanda Gorman's powerful speech at the inauguration of Joe Biden, we were all inspired and reminded of how poetry can empower us, help us to better understand our experiences, and appreciate the world around us.
Poetry has an effect on all generations, making people consider everything from love to loss. Studies have shown that regularly reading poetry can be a powerful way of regaining control of our fears, anxieties, memories, and using these as a creative force.
To walk us through the benefits of poetry and provide us with a front row seat into a poet's mind, we have two poetry leaders in our studio today. They are Katrina Jo Sapp-Holder and Darius Daughtry. We're looking forward to hearing from these talented artists.
And they are indeed talented. I've heard them all around the South Florida area. And yes, we're looking forward to hearing from these superstars. We talked earlier about Amanda Gorman, and she is a spoken word poet. And she spoke at the inauguration of President Biden, of course. But let's not forget about Maya Angelou, who spoke at President Bill Clinton's inauguration in 1993. And of course, she's one of our favorite poets,
Absolutely.
right? And we all love Still I Rise. So ladies, give me, bear with me a little bit as, and indulge me while I do the first verse only of her poem. You may write me down in history with your bitter, twisted lies. You may trod me in the very dirt.
But
still, like dust, I rise.
Yes. Now, we have a little work to do, of course, but
you get it.
Well, we'll be right back after these messages with our first guest, poetess Katrina Jo Sapp-Holder.
At the Women of Color Empowerment Institute, our mission is to enhance and expand leadership by women of color. We do this in a variety of different ways, including but not limited to providing mentorship opportunities for young professionals where we assist in helping to create paths to leadership. We empower women to develop capacities for social change. We produce programs that promote heritage awareness, and we provide training opportunities for business and government. Our institute holds seminars focused on professional success techniques, and we host many other events such as our popular Advocates for Change and Leaders Connect. The Women of Color Empowerment Institute publishes a magazine called Women Lead. Our signature event is the Women of Color Empowerment Conference, a yearly conference where hundreds of leaders gather from all across the United States and beyond. To learn more about membership and how you can support our programs or be a sponsor of the Women Lead TV, visit us at nationalwomenofcolor.com. Again, that's nationalwomenofcolor.com. Welcome back to Women Lead. We have with us our guest, Katrina Sapp-Holder. She is a teacher for more than 20 years. She's a poet, writer, a UM graduate, and the list goes on. Thank you for taking the time to join us today, Katrina.
So, Katrina, tell us about your path.
Like many young adults, I was filled with angst at the time, and I was journaling. And then someone told me about spoken word or open mic nights. I wasn't really clear on what spoken word was at the time, but I went down and I signed up at 9 o'clock. And as the night progressed, the superstars of the time in spoken word kept coming through, so I kept getting bumped up the list. So I start to write lines about the night as the night goes on, and I finally get called up at 12:30 as Katrina, at the time just Katrina Jo. But I wrote Katrina Jo, a poetess. But the host of the night calls me up and says, next we have coming to the mic, poetess. And so from that day to this one, I am poetess.
All right.
Wow,
Great.
wonderful, wonderful. Well, you are poetess, a spoken word and performance artist, but you are also a poetry expert and teacher. And so I want to ask you this question I've never been able to sit down with anybody and ask. Tell us about the different types of poets.
Well, I categorize poets pretty much in two genres or two styles. You have poets that write for the page, and then you have poets who write for the stage, and that would be the spoken word artist. The two on paper look very different because a spoken word artist in essence is writing monologues that are filled with figurative language, similes, metaphors, And poets who write for the page are following format. They're learning the different styles and stanzas of poetry to present them in a way that their reader can interpret the poetry in their absence.
Got it. Interesting. I'm glad you asked that question. So my question to you is, what has social media done for poets? Has it broadened your audience in terms of people who can access poetry?
Yes, it really has been a blessing to the spoken word community because, especially during COVID, Clubhouse came to be. And we would have forums where one night you may find yourself in a forum or in a room with Sherry Belafonte. And she's telling you what she thinks about your last two lines or your delivery. And those are opportunities that, obviously you wouldn't have sitting in Fort Lauderdale in your condo by yourself. Also, when you look at Instagram or Facebook or YouTube, we're able to share our work with the world. And in essence, speaking for myself, I'm able to get booked in states and, countries that I would have. You can't audition for a place that you've never been, but with social media, you can.
That's fantastic. So let's dig a little deeper into your craft. Do you have any writing routine? How do you write? Go about doing that?
I do a lot of what is called master pages. So that's when you wake up in the morning and basically you brain dump whatever is in your mind at the time. That way, when subjects stand out to me later on in the day and I start writing, I can pick them out and say, this is actually a subject that I'm going to focus on. Now, I write prose, so I write novels, and I also write poetry. With the poetry, because I'm known more for my freestyle, that can come from anywhere. I can sit on the side of the road amongst beautiful women of color, and a poem may come. I'll get part of the poem, but if I'm going to recite it or I'm going to write it and carry it all the way through, I keep working on it throughout the day, and at the end of the day, I've got a poem.
You're refining it all day.
Correct.
Okay.
Would you say that your heritage, other elements of your background play a part in what ultimately inspires you and what you write?
Definitely. My first memory of a poet who would sit and freestyle create is Mildred Keeves. And I encountered her at New Mount Olive Baptist Church just a few blocks over. And she was my first real poet that I could touch. And then, of course, there's Nikki Giovanni. And she built my ego. That being said, I've only ever been a black girl, then I was a black young adult, and then I became a black woman. And so it all encompasses, it's all of who I am, and that's what you get in my poetry.
Love it. So, Katrina, describe your process in transferring your ideas from your head to paper.
I tend to work often in the onion. So I get a base idea, and if we're talking about spoken word poetry, I build out my layers of figurative language and I evolve the piece so that by the time you peel away all the layers of the onion, you have the base, what I really want you to get out of this piece. And that's pretty much my mind to page. When I teach it though, because I'm often working with young writers, I do start them with the classic formats because that's where I learned in rhyme. That's how I developed my ability to really use figurative language on the fly.
Well, maybe you will share with us right now what your current plans are with poetry and what your future plans are as well.
Well, currently I am working on a workshop series for up-and-coming spoken word artists here in the Broward and Dade. We have Broward and Dade in that cohort of poets. And I'm working with Ingrid B. of B-Side Entertainment for us to expand our workshop series for development beyond the walls of Florida. I also have a book coming out called Care Less, So You Can Live More, focusing on women and taking that S up off your chest. That will be out in November. And I'm partnering with the African American Research Library to bring a poetry series. That'll be performance, open to the public.
I love it. So I wanted that to go by. I love it. So tell us, if you would, I know you work with a lot of young people, you're a teacher, and I'm thinking that poetry gives young people a way to express themselves that they may not be able to tap into without some kind of training. So how do you work with young people to introduce them to poetry?
I encourage freedom with young people. What do you feel? Don't overthink it, so that they can get to the roots of the emotions, because it's the emotion that really drives a piece when the smoke clears. And I find that many of the young people, because if you can remember, the emotions of a middle schooler, the emotions of the high school love are powerful,
High drama.
powerful driving forces. And so I don't work so much with honing them into format initially, but more about being creative and being free first. And then we kind of work backwards from there into format and structure.
Okay, so I know how good you are, but I'm just going to go ahead and show my sisters here on the fly, because I want them to see how you freestyle. So give us a little bit, if you would, of Katrina.
I'm a woman of color amongst women of color coming together to figure out how we can empower everyone. Knowing that we cannot bear the brunt of all things, but we can control some things, so we're going to control ourselves. We're going to show the world our best selves, and in action show someone else how they can rise to the next level, push through the next thing, make it to the next bridge, cross over and become stronger women. Not talking about superwoman, but talking about the woman, black woman, brown woman, weak woman, strong woman, because we all the same woman.
Ooh. Yes.
Oh my goodness.
And she's my sorrow. But anyway, sorry I had to say that. But I want to thank you for coming on our show. We've enjoyed talking with you so very much.
Thank you all for having me.
And we'll be right back with our next guest, Darius Daltrey, after these messages.
The law office of Austin Pammies Norris Weeks Powell is a full-service law firm practicing in the area of governmental law, including the representation of municipalities, civil litigation, personal injury, real estate, and corporate transactional matters. With over 100 years of collective experience, our attorneys are admitted to practice before state courts, federal courts, and the United States Supreme Court. We are conveniently located in downtown Fort Lauderdale and can be reached at 954-768-9770. Or for more information about the law firm of Austin Pammies Norris Weeks Powell, visit our website at apnwlaw.com. That's apnwlaw.com.
Welcome back to Women Lead. We have with us Darius Daltrey. Darius is a poet, playwright, director, and educator. He's the founder and executive artistic director of Art Prevails Project, a performing and literary arts organization cultivating community and creating equitable access to the arts through performance, arts education, and community engagement.
So Darius, we want to know a little bit about you, and you can tell us also about your journey in poetry.
Well, first, let me just say thank you for having me. I'm so honored to be with amazing women. Like my life is centered around kind of that experience, amazing women, and being poured into by and working with amazing women. So I'm honored to be here.
Ooh, we will receive
Welcome.
it.
Yeah.
Thank you. So I mean, as Kathy said, I'm a poet and playwright, director, former educator. I spent 10 years as a public school teacher, taught creative writing and theater and English in the classroom, and started writing really when I was around 8 years old. But took a circuitous route to get to where I am today. Dabbled in some corporate America stuff. I have a degree in finance, but don't ask me to do taxes or anything like that because it's not happening. But for me, the utilizing words and the power of words has always been something that was taught to me by my mom. She had me reading the dictionary when I was younger. I got in trouble. She would send me to the room with a dictionary as punishment, and then that became fun, and she had to find something else to punish me with. So I was always creating and writing and doing things of that nature, and it just helped me just kind of navigate life as a young person, a young black boy, a young black man. And to today, what I do with words and what I do with just the arts in general to help give voice and continue to using those words through myself and then others as well.
Awesome.
Okay.
Are there particular subjects that inspire you to write?
Oh, yeah. So I write about life, and I know it's a very general kind of thing to say, but I write about life. I write about things that I think are important. I think there are things that need to be talked about and said different perspectives. So a lot of my writing is from a black perspective and black experience. I like to tell black stories, the stories of black men, women, children, and such. But I'm also inspired by just what's happening on a daily basis. I think, unfortunately, a lot of people don't feel that they have the voice or the power to tell their particular story. And so I write oftentimes to, I won't say give them that voice, but kind of just be this amplifier for their voice that already exists. And, but also write to agitate sometimes. I write some stuff to make some people kind of have to, shift in their seats and think about things in ways that they probably don't want to think about. And so I'm okay being that guy in a room full of people that don't look like me, saying some things that make them have to I don't know, have to kind of rethink and reassess some things, hopefully.
So clearly everybody has a story, but in your opinion, does everybody have a poetic voice inside themselves? Could everybody be a poet?
The answer is yes. But just like everything else, to what degree that looks like is different. So, like I said, I taught 10 years. I taught creative writing classes in a school setting for 7 years. But then since then, I do that as well. I do a lot of teaching, whether it is from youth to seniors. And a lot of it really is about speaking your truth and kind of finding this part of you that maybe has been silenced or that has been told to you that you don't have the validity to say anything, or what someone, no one wants to hear what you have to say. But it's just about a matter of unlocking that and giving space and providing just tools to help that. And it doesn't have to sound a way, right? Because sometimes people think poetry has to sound a particular way. But I think at the core of it is really connecting with self and being able to allow what's inside to kind of come out. And so we all have that in us. We all can do that, and it's going to sound different, right? I'm not suggesting that someone who's never written a poem before is going to sound like Maya Angelou on the first time we do a workshop. However, you'd be surprised what comes out of some people who haven't been writing or haven't written in a while, but then you get them in there and I kind of help them just give some space, and the next thing you know, they're feeling transformed by what came out of them that they didn't really know was there, or they'd hidden away or locked away for a while. So yeah, I think it's in us. It's just a matter of how it comes out.
It's interesting because as a practicing attorney, I always feel that the law took all creativity out of my writing. All creativity out of my writing. I don't know if it's there somewhere.
See, I don't
inside.
think so. I think, listen, my best friend's an attorney, and he's not writing poems, but we talk about these briefs and stuff, and how he has to kind of be creative.
You can only be so creative.
Well, true that. I understood.
Yeah, I think you could only be so creative. Yeah. Let me ask you, is there a setting that you feel comfortable writing in? Do you have your little writing space? This is where I go to do that and meditate and get it right.
Yeah, so what's interesting is I'm writing all the time. Whether I write it down or not, I'm always in my head. So whether I'm driving, walking, I'm writing all the time. However, there's a dedicated space in my house that's my writing space. But I spend a whole lot of time and too much money at coffee shops. And it's a good feeling for me to be there. I don't really need a whole lot of people around me, just kind of be in space.
Is it the smell of coffee?
And I'm not even a huge coffee drinker myself. It's the smell, it's the sound, it's the energy that's kind of in and out where I don't have to. It's not super loud, and I can but still be focused on what I'm doing. It was funny, like during lockdown and the pandemic. I felt like, man, I don't know what to do. I've been writing in coffee shops for years, and I feel now like home is okay. I'm writing something at home, but I need just to be around. I ended up writing a poem. I was commissioned to write a poem from the Broward Culture Division about that. So this whole poem is about me being like longing to sit in the coffee shop and write, and needing the smell and then the sound of the espresso machine and everything, just as a faint kind of background kind of noise, just to kind of do that. But I can write anywhere though. Mm-hmm. I can.
So you are the founder of the Arts Prevail Project. What motivated you to found that organization, and what does it do?
Yeah, thank you. So what motivated me largely was my time in the classroom. So as an educator, I noticed that one, they were taking a lot of the extracurricular activities out of the schools, like specifically arts programming. So a lot of, there weren't a lot of drama. Like when I got to the high school I taught at, they didn't have a drama program. They didn't have a creative writing class or creative writing program. And so I started those things at the school, and seeing the engagement and how impactful that was for those students, it just was inspiring to me. And just having students like, Mr. D, can I come into your class? Like, I'm like, no, you got to go a class to go to. Like, I want to write. So then I started an after school program with them, and so we just did a lot of these amazing things. And so and these students were students who weren't getting it, because if you went out west to some of the schools, they had these drama programs, they had these creative writing programs, and the disparity between what was being offered for me was glaring. So I'm like, if I can do this and impact this particular population at this school, then I can do more than that, right? It's great for this school, but what about a broader community? What about people in other places, that don't have this access to space, right? They can't take a creative writing class, and that not just the students, but again, the adults who haven't, touched a pen in that way in 20 years, the seniors who I've worked with before, being able to tell their stories. And so for me, it was important to provide, just from an arts education standpoint, an avenue for people to connect with themselves and to explore. But also what we do, we provide experiences as well. So that means we do full theatrical productions, and we come into communities and we create many artistic festivals that include music and dance and food and all these kinds of things, to bring that to the community. So the idea is creating equitable access. It's like, right, you may live here, or you may have this amount of money in your bank account, or you may have these experiences, but you also deserve these amazing experiences, this quality of life that other people deserve as well. So that's what Art Prevails Project is about, providing those spaces, opportunities to engage in the art as a practitioner, but also to just be able to participate in and experience it and soak up all the goodness that exists in the world.
I love it.
Do you think that, had your mother not sort of accidentally gotten you into writing, as a disciplinary measure, that you would have found your poetic voice? Because clearly you are working in alignment with your gifts and your passion, but would you have found it? Do you think that you would have found it otherwise?
If it wasn't for the true support of my family, right, it would be a more difficult journey. My mom, my entire life was my biggest fan, so I give so much credit to her and what she poured into me to be able to, do what I do.
And you hear a lot of, and as we close, you hear a lot, people, especially artists, they have a lot of back and forth with their families. I mean, people who pick up and go out to California and they say, I'm going to, go and be a star or whatever, be an artist. And you hear the stories about how the families try to push them in the direction of whatever traditional thing sounds like, and a lot of lawyers suffer from that too, right? So this is really great. I've enjoyed listening to you, and I know that our viewers have as well. We hope that you will come back again and come back to Women Lead and sit with us at another time.
Thank you so much for coming. It was enjoyable, and you shared wisdom.
I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you all, and maybe next time I can give you a poem next time.
Well, yeah, you want to dust off something right now.
I mean, I'm always ready. Life will never be a crystal stair. More like a battlefield filled with landmines and snares. You can either navigate the field or sit sidelined scared, screaming at the rest of the world that life just ain't fair, and you're right. Ain't nothing fair about this thing called life. Some are fork-fed a fortune while others futilely fight for an inch, a pinch, a sliver, a slice, a dash of daybreak in the darkness of night. But what shall your game plan be? Will you sit on the sideline resigned to defeat, lamenting over all the odds you feel you can't beat? Put your hand over your heart. And if you still feel a beat, then you are blessed. So tell stress to take several seats. Step on your haters' necks, lace up the boots on your feet, and then stride into your year, your month, your week, your day, your hour, your minute, your moment, every part of your life as if you own it. If you have a set of goals, then you better get on it, because in this fight called life, we're our fiercest opponent. And we pack jabs of indecision and uppercuts of self-doubt. If you don't defend yourself from yourself, you might knock yourself out. But you just can't play defense, constant retreat. You have to go on the attack, float like a butterfly sweet, and then swing for the fences and reach for the stars, launch toward Mercury and grab a hold of Mars, take a ride on a comet. But there are no handlebars and no training wheels, so of course you'll fall off and get bloodied and muddied and sullied and scarred. But you must pick yourself up and brush yourself off, because how you deal with those falls defines who you are, and you are amazing. No crystal stair needed. Seated in your soul is a celestial symphony, which means you're right where you're meant to be. Gotta open up your eyes and see it. Tune your ears to your own imperfect pitch. Ride your system's glitch. Scratch your own itch like a DJ, like a DJ, like a DJ. When you live life this way, it's like you play soul music and mix it with hip hop and salsa and kumbaya and classical. It becomes a magical mashup for you to groove with. Now, who's this? Staring back at you every single morning in the mirror. I say it is none other than a reflection of God or Goddess. So look right back at them every single morning and make them a promise that you will always and forever live life amazing.
All right, yes. Now that's empowerment. And ladies, to
I
our
love
viewers,
this show.
I love this show too. And until the next time, be empowered.
Shine.